Welcome, everyone. We are happy to have you here in this cybersecurity webinar, the first of its kind. We always encourage our students to register in our new departments. This is the first webinar about cybersecurity. Because of our big number, please, I encourage everyone to keep their mics muted. For any kind of questions, you can directly raise your hands, and we will have permission to ask for anything that you want. All right, so welcome, guys. We are happy to have you here. What we're discussing today in this webinar, we're going to talk in general about what cybersecurity is, why do we need it, what's the importance of cybersecurity in our daily lives, in our technologies, in our systems. Why is it extremely important to have our system safe and to increase the security of all of our databases? Because, you know, nowadays, everything is related to security. Everything is related to digital informations, databases, which increases, of course, the threats and increases the percentage of cyber attacks and all kinds of breaches to our security. That is also one big matter for all the governments all over the world, because even today the wars are no longer with weapons. They are electronic and they are over the internet. It is a cyber war nowadays, because all governments, all countries, they have all of their information saved and spread on their databases that are highly secured in their systems, that are highly secured at a certain place. Today, any kind of attack is going to be a cyber attack in order to gain some information or sensitive data about another country. A fast example about that, what we're talking about is in a government phase, if we're talking like military or something, then there is going to be information about maybe, let's say, some agents that work undercover for another country. Then their records are gonna be saved in this database of this country. So the problem is going to be risky for these names to be exposed. Definition and principles of cybersecurity. First of all, we're going to talk about what is a cybercrime. A cybercrime, it is that we were just talking about or just referring to. It is something that happens over the internet, over our computers, over our phones, over our internet connections. It is a kind of attack. It is a technological attack that targets our smart systems, that targets our smart devices. And these devices, of course, they will have plenty of information about our personal data, about our personal credentials, about everything concerning our personal data. Please pay attention to your mics. Okay. So, sometimes of these cyber crimes, they include, of course, illegal interception of data, because it's never legal to intercept any kind of data or sensitive data and personal data of a certain person. Imagine that you are holding this credit card of your bank, and of course it's going to contain your username and your password, your credentials, to be able to access your account and maybe to see your total, let's say, the kind of money that you're saving or doing some transactions. Of course, it's a definite illegal to have any kind of interception over these data, as per any kind of also, let's say, an account, any kind of credential that you use to log in into something, to a system, to a bank, any kind of credentials. System interferences, which means that you are interfering in a system that is well organized and have its own goal. It has its own, let's say, target working on. Copyrights, of course, and sale of illegal items. And this is today the biggest threat that is considered as a cyber crime. because either if you know or you don't, there is something which is called the dark web. The dark web, it is same as our websites that we visit. So you go over and type a certain website, and then you start surfing the internet, buying some stuff, either Amazon, for example, or something. But there is another side that is happening out there, which is called the dark web. This dark web is, of course, 100% illegal, but there is no authority power or a global authority power to be able to shut that down. And what happens over that dark web is the sale of illegal items. I don't know, it can be drugs, it can be explosive, it can be weapons. So this is extremely dangerous, what we're talking about over here. Of course, I'm not going to say how to access dark web, but we should always be aware about malicious website. We should always be aware about illegal stuff that are being sold. Maybe, let's say, some advertisements that are fake, and their only target is to attract the customer so that he can go and surf in there, and then he will find, oh, this is cheaper over here. They have more items. So they are attracting the customer to be able to buy all of these illegal stuff. They are gaining money. They are exposing this customer to illegal illegal actions that if he was caught on, then he will be in massive trouble. It is the body, cybersecurity, it is the body of technologies. Why is it the body of technologies? Because you have to keep your technology safe. You have to keep your items safe. You have to keep your databases safe, your systems, your credentials, your accounts, your everything. They have to be safe. This is why we say that cybersecurity is the body of technologies, because every kind of new technology that is appearing every day, and we all know that daily we have updates, we have new technologies that are coming over there, we have new incomes, we have a new update for a certain technology. The core or the body of these technologies is to keep them safe, is to deal with their security and to keep them closed, because any kind of breach will cause all of the system to be exposed to a certain malicious attack, which is going to be disastrous, of course. An example about that is the, let's say the company of Facebook, and I don't know if you have this information, the staff, it has one department that is specialized in hacking. So what do we mean by that? There is a certain department that has its own task, or their job description is to always try to penetrate inside the website, always try to find a weak point, always try to hack inside it. And this is why today, stealing an account like that is a lot more difficult than it was before, because they increased their security, they increased their cyber security at their cyberspace. Every time this team finds a leak, finds, let's say, a weak point, a backdoor to be able to enter the system and to be inside it without anyone knowing, then they will fix this point and maybe shut it down. So there is an entire staff that have their daily jobs and spend all of their times trying to penetrate and to find these weak points, to be able to fix them, of course, and to be able to shut them down. As we said, cybersecurity, it's the body of technologies. It has processes and practices that are involved in protecting individuals and organizations from cybercrime. Of course, throughout trainings that we gain, throughout webinars such as this one. It's designed as well to protect integrity of networks. Cybersecurity, it is designed to protect the integrity of the networks, and we will talk about three main concepts. One of them is the integrity. Why is it important? Why do we care so much about it? Computers as well, programs, data from attacks, damages, or unauthorized access. So I think about each and every point of those, and you try to link it to a certain place. Let's say that networks is in a certain company that is connected over a certain cloud. Computers, it can be personal or organizational. Programs and data, damages like maybe for a certain website that is online 24/7, and unauthorized access that is, of course, the unauthorized access always has a target to, let's say, capture your personal data and steal your personal information. We're not just talking about username or password for a certain Facebook account. No, we're talking something bigger than that, which is the credentials. And what do I mean by that? There's something extremely important that I always say, even in my classes, my students know that is, we always talk about free Wi-Fi. Free Wi-Fi that is a lot famous on airports. So if you're at an airport and this airport is offering you free Wi-Fi, and then you remember that you wanted to make some transaction, you wanted to buy something or to, let's say, pay for your ticket, then what do you do over there? You just go ahead, access your account, and then you do your transaction from this free Wi-Fi. But what you don't know is that this Wi-Fi was made free for a reason. There is someone maybe that is, we say that maybe someone is stalking this network, trying to capture your transaction, trying to have an unauthorized access to be able to gain your credentials, your username, and your password. And by doing that, he will have access to your bank credentials. So this is as extreme dangerous as we can say. But of course, people just don't know. If I have free Wi-Fi, then I can do whatever I want by the time that I'm waiting for my plane, which is, of course, very dangerous. Okay, so to answer the question of okay, to answer the question of Abdulwali, it is it's a general session that is for computer network security, for cybersecurity, for anyone interested as well. Okay, example of these attacks, as we were saying, and we're going to mention those, of course, more. We have the kill chain, the zero-day attack, the ransomware, the alert fatigue, and the man-in-the-middle attack that is, of course, extremely famous. The man-in-the-middle is an extremely famous attack, and I bet everyone heard of it. It is the way to capture all of the information by hijacking your credentials throughout this example that we were just saying. So the principles of cybersecurity, we have some principles that are key principles and that are always taken into consideration. These 5 key principles are, first of all, the confidentiality. When we say confidentiality, which means that if I'm buying something from this website, I'm confident about what I'm doing. The integrity is, and I'm going to talk about all of these points as in details, all of these points. The integrity of your system is keeping the integrity of your website, of your secure system, because whenever the system was exposed to a certain kind of attack, which means that your integrity is now weaker and you are exposing your integrity. The availability is making your system 24/7 available. Imagine that if you are someone that is a famous system over there and the system is down, let's say 10 hours per day or 4 hours per day, then that's a weak point. And that's, of course, something that is not supposed to happen. The availability is that the system should be 24/7 available. It should never be shut down. It should never be unavailable to its servers. Accountability is also about accounting, and auditability is to gain access over audits, and then they can be pretty much okay, network is very poor. Let me try to fix that 1 second. Hey, okay, can you hear me better?
We can hear you. We can hear you, teacher.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we can hear you.
So, perfect. So, resuming about what we're talking about, we were talking about the 5 key principles of cybersecurity. I'm going to go over them again very quickly because I'm going to go into more details about everyone. The confidentiality of your system, which means I'm confident about where I'm accessing. This is the first point, which is extremely important about the confidentiality. The second point is the integrity. Once your system is broken, one time your system is exposed, then that destroys your entire integrity as a website, as a provider, as a system or an administration. Once you face a cyber attack, once the cyber attack was successful on your network, this destroys your integrity forever. No one's going to believe that you updated yourself, that you protected yourself, that you fixed all of the stuff. They will always think that it happened once, it can happen again. So this is the integrity over here about the system, which it should always be taken care of before you go online if you are a provider. The availability of the system, it's not logic that if you are a provider, then your system is shut down, because that points out to a very weak system. Imagine of 24 hours, if you're a bank system, then this bank system is not available, let's say 10 hours a day. That's never supposed to happen. Your availability should be high. Your availability should be 24/7 if you are a provider, of course. Even the accountability and the auditability that we will see now. So confidentiality, as we were just saying, it's a set of rules that limits access or place restrictions on certain type of information, which means I should be confident where I'm sending my information to. If I'm sending any of my bank credentials, I'm sure that a regular employer in the bank cannot see my credentials. So no one, a random someone, can see my username or my password. I'm sure that there is a certain administration who is responsible for these kind of transactions that are allowed to see my credentials and to confirm them. That is one. Another example, if I'm logging into a social media account like my Facebook, then it is illogical that every employee over there can see my credentials. Of course not. There is a certain department, there's a certain team that is responsible to be able to see all of these information, that is, of course, has the right to confirm my login through this confidentiality. I'm confident where I'm sending my information to. Integrity, the assurance that the information is trustworthy and accurate. First of all, I keep my integrity as a system. I keep my integrity, and integrity is somehow related with availability as well. And another way to keep integrity is, of course, showing that I'm trustworthy and I'm accurate. I'm not sending my information to any kind of person that is going to spread it out there and, oh, my personal data is somehow available to everyone. Available to everyone maybe due to an attack. So it's not always that the system gets my information and maybe spreads it. Maybe a certain cyber attack was held on my system or my databases, and this cyber attack caused my information to be spread out. So where's my integrity over there? Even if my system was under a cyber attack, even if I was a victim and the attack was successful, I should be backing up all of my data and my personal information so that no one is able to access sensitive data. The availability, which is also what we discussed before, when we talk availability, it is the guarantee of reliable access to the information by authorized people. It should always be available. it should never be shut down, and who is accessing my information should have, of course, some kind of authority, and he should be authorized to see this information. Accountability, it's an assurance that the individual, or if we're talking organization, will be evaluated on their performance and their behavior related to something for which they are responsible. Example about that. If I'm talking about, and let's say a transaction, and there is a team responsible to see that these I paid for this product for this amount, and then I have this amount left. They took this amount, so they left the other. These kind of transactions that happen. There's a certain team that's responsible for this task. My accountability is they are evaluated at the end for their performance. Was the performance of the system, let's say, good enough? Was it bad? The service terrible? Was the service great? And of course, their behavior. Comes next, the auditability. The auditability is over here, the security audit, and it is a systematic evaluation of the security of this company's IT or the information system by, we say, measuring how well. Guys, please pay attention to your mics. Okay, so by measuring how well it conforms to a set of established criteria. So the auditability should be over a certain kind of criteria. Also, it shouldn't be, nothing should be random. Now, what are the cyber threats that we are talking about and that we might face? What are these examples of cyber threats? Cyber threats, first of all, it is any kind of malicious act or malicious attack. What do? They attempt to gain access on our system. They attempt to gain access on our computer, on our network, without authorization or without permission from their owner. So this is over here. What we say, it's an attack. So if you are trying to gain access to my system and I don't give you permission to do so, then this is a cyber threat over here, and you are trying to gain an unauthorized access system. A cyber threat also refers to a wide range of malicious activities that can damage or disrupt a computer system, a network, or the information it contains, which means as a result of a cyber attack, what can happen is that I can have my system damaged, I can have my computer acting as a slave, and I lose all information that I'm having secure on my databases, that I'm saving on my networks, or that I deal with on this availability. There are a lot of common cyber threats that we might hear of every day. One of them is the social engineering or the social engineered Trojans. What is that about in one sentence? It is about someone that is following up on you. So he has eyes on you to be able to discover your character, which means that he spots your interest, spots your weakness, and then he follows up on you to be able to see that maybe you, let's say you check in every day at this kind of location. You are interested in this kind of product from what you share on Facebook, what you like on Facebook. He sees that you are interested in this kind of product, so he fakes a product and he tries to sell you this product. This is over here what we call a social engineering. Social because he is following up on your social platforms and trying to discover stuff about you. Unpatched software, which means he is trying to pinch in a software or putting a software in your device that is going to damage all of your hardware. Phishing is, some as its name indicate, it is the way that they try to undercover themselves, and then they send you maybe a fake email or a fake advertisement in order to attract you. Then when you fill out this information, the entire stuff, you are going to fall victim. And of course, you are going to damage everything. Network worms, the worms of a network are softwares that act to damage this network, and they can cause a lot of harm to your network once they are in and active. The sources of the cyber threats. Where does a cyber threat comes from? Simply, anyone who has a motivation, anyone who has an intention to hurt, or anyone who has this intention to do something bad, he is a source of a cyber threat. They can come from a wide variety of sources. Some notable examples, if you want to say that some examples about these. One of these examples is the national governments. But we are talking about governments, saying that a government should protect its system, a government should protect its information, its databases. So we're not over here to judge, and we're not talking politics. But as I was saying before, a national government, if two countries were at war, how is one country going to attack the other? A country is going to attack the other with a cyber attack. So they send them worms, or they send them malicious hardware or malicious software to gain access to their personal sensitive information that contains highly confidential information that has a lot of sensitive data. And this is where they are, let's say, initiating their attack. And this is a source of their attack. This is what we call a national governmental source. Terrorists, of course, for terrorist reasons, terrorists, they cannot just be guys that hold guns and kill and stuff, but the biggest terror is the cyberspace. Industrial secret agents as well. RAG employees. RAG employees, this, if you remember that not a long time ago, Facebook was down. And when I say Facebook, I'm meaning that Facebook, Instagram, and all of the platforms that belong to the same person, they were down for like 12 hours or something like that. This was because an employee from inside triggered a malicious software that actually shut down the entire system, and people were not able to reach accounts, people were not able to access their platforms, and this was disastrous, and this was historical because this never happened before. So this is a RAG employee that caused this type of attack. Hackers, of course, hack into your system. Business competitors, if you are a successful company and then you have a competitor out there in the market and they are trying to build a certain competition with you so that they want to make you weaker, this is called a business competitor. How to do so? They damage your system, they damage your information throughout a certain type of a, let's say, an attack, not to name any certain one. So whenever they weaken your system, then their competition is, of course, increasing over you. Organization insiders, which means that anyone inside the company who has a motivation or an intention to be hurting this company is a source of a cyber attack or is a source of a cyber threat as well. Are we good till now?
Yeah, we are good.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
Very good, very good.
Yes, yes.
Great. Classifications of cyber threats. How do we classify them? So again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, it is it's a general session, of course, because I'm not going into a lot of details about stuff. I'm just talking a general view. And this is, of course, to encourage you guys, if you have done a certain, let's say, if you have finished a certain master's program, also, we encourage you to register in the cybersecurity program if you are interested in these type of information and you want to see their details. So, Dr. Irfan, my salutes. All right. So, cyber threat classifications. These threats, they can be classified in multiple criteria. We have criteria for the threats. We cannot just say a cyber threat. So the word cyber threat is a huge word. It has a lot of information inside it. It holds a lot of doors. It opens a lot of doors. There's a lot of inside and out to this word. So we classify to multiple criteria the cyber threats. The first one is an attacker's resources, the attacker's organization, and the attacker's funding. Because of course, the cyber attack, it needs funding. It's, let's say it costs, and we're gonna explain how. On the basis of these criteria, we have three types of cyber threats. The first one is unstructured, and the second is structured. What's the difference we're going to see? And we have the highly structured threats. So unstructured, structured, and the highly structured threats. The unstructured threat is, first of all, it holds for resources. What are the resources of an unstructured threat? An individual or a small group of people. So it can be one person, one individual that is going through with this attack. He is one person and he is doing everything alone, or a small group of people, which means that we are talking about 4 to 5, 5 to 10 as well. They are considered as a small group. And you're going to see why I'm saying that this number is considered as a small group. So this is the resource of an unstructured threat. The organization is little or no organization at all. So I have 5 of my friends and they know how to code, they know how to hack, and we don't have any organization. We're not registered as an organization. We're just a small group of people and we have the intention to perform a cyber attack. So this is over here and no organization, or a little one that is actually nothing. The funding is either negligible or we can fund ourselves. So it can be the minimum of funding we have, because we have a maximum of funding. Sometimes a country gives a fund for another country to be able to perform a very huge kind of attack. Why do they do so? Because they, of course, have interest that this country is able to attack the other. The type of attack, it is going to be, okay, hand up for Abdi Katin. Go ahead, you have a question?
Yes, teacher, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Teacher, what is the difference between cybersecurity and the hackers?
Okay, difference between cybersecurity and the hackers. Actually, it's not a difference that we say, but they are related, because a cybersecurity is the security of our systems, and a hacker is the one who tries to penetrate inside the security and breaks it. So a hacker is a person that either types code or does a certain attack to be able to penetrate inside my system and to be able to hurt my system. So this is what we call a hacker. And in general, the cybersecurity is how to protect our system. Hackers, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the attack over here in the unstructured cyber threat, it is easy to detect and make use of freely available cyber attack tool. So the attack is easy to detect because somehow it is going to be a weak attack. It is a weak attack because it's not funded right. The resources are individuals or a small group. So there is no, let's say, a big group that are working together and doing this powerful attack. So it is easy to detect. Also, we have the exploitation based on documented vulnerabilities. Now you're going to understand that more when we talk about the structured threat. The structured threat is, first of all, the resource is a well-trained individual or group. So now we got up to the level, we increased the level over here. The resource of the unstructured attack was a certain individual or a small group. Now we are talking in the structured cyber threat about a very well-trained individual who is either a cyber specialist or a group of cyber specialists. Now over here, we have increased the skills. So the percentage or the threat that is going to happen is going to be a lot more dangerous. The organization is well planned. They don't just go out there and start an attack. They draw a plan or they draw a roadmap on what are the steps that are going to happen and how this attack is going to happen. So this is over here extremely important about how they plan their attack. And when we say planning, when we talk about planning, which means there is a risk management over here. They know that they are going to be exposed at risk. So they have a contingency plan or they have a backup plan if they were exposed, how to behave, or even how to protect themselves of being exposed. The funding for a structured cyber threat is available. So there are funds over here. Funds can be used for, let's say, installing more hardware, maybe buying some hardware or some software that will make the attack even more dangerous. And then the attack is against a particular individual or an organization. It's not a random attack. It is an attack that has a target. Either my target is this certain individual because I know that this certain individual has made a lot of money in his bank account, or this attack is target for, let's say, this organization to be able to weaken or to be able to access their databases.
Is there any problem at all? Network?
No, we are waiting, teacher. Until the teacher is here. Wait. Maybe teacher, he get. No. Teacher, maybe.
oday ma la xagareeyay
ma yiniyo qadka culus oo malaha wuu soo laabana waxa suga.
waa sugayna insha Allah.
No, please, I think that the lesson is already finished. So the time is very good.
ma badmin hal
saaca waxa dhiman dulqaad content.
It was just one.
Okay, Go on, Tija.
Yeah, brother.
1 second of connection down.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you.
But
Okay. So in the structured cyber threat, as we were saying, there is a fund, and the attack is targeting individual or a certain organization in a target to weaken this organization. Now, the highly structured cyber threat, it is the extensive organization, the resources, and planning over time, which means, first of all, the resource is it can be a company by itself, it can be account resources over here are huge. And yet also the planning happens over a big time. So over a long time, this cyber attack is being studied, the cyber attack is being planning, and they are planning for this type of attack for a long time. This doesn't just happen in a day or in a couple of days. They plan for what they are going to do for a year maybe. And the attack is as well a long-term attack on particular machine or data. So it's for a long term. It's not just an attack that brings down the system for an hour or brings down the system for, let's say, a certain amount of a little time, but it is a kind of attack that takes a lot of time. And the effects of this attack are also going to be for a long time over a certain machine. Okay, the threat index level, we have 4 levels of threats. One is guarded, which means that it is a simple threat that I can directly kiss. There is a certain department, it's a government department, that is the CTU. CTU is the counter threat unit or counter terrorist unit. They are, of course, associated with these index level. Their job is to be able to always 24 hours daily spot any kind of threat that might be facing their systems. The first level of this threat is guarded, so it is easily captured. The second one is elevated, so they let's say they elevate the level of threat. There is the high threat that is more dangerous, and there is the critical one. The critical one over here, then they have, or sometimes they are afraid that they don't have the full power to control it, and this is extremely dangerous. If the government or the CTU or any country's counter threat unit faces a critical attack, which means that they have to double their efforts because this attack has a high, let's say a high level or a high chance to succeed, which means that they are at a big risk. What are these cyber attacks? And this is maybe what everyone is waiting for. First of all, the types are advanced, persistent, and backdoor. The advanced persistent threat is a network attack. So it is attack over a network in which an unauthorized person gains access and stays there undetected for a long period of time. So if someone hacked into your Facebook and you did not know that, what happens over there? He has unauthorized access over your system, and he stays inside your system. He is in there. He is watching you. He is reading your messages. He is capturing all of the information that are going in and out. He is monitoring all of your actions, but you are not aware of that. And this is over here the dangerous thing and the critical kind of attack is that this unauthorized access was successful, first of all, and it is undetected. You don't know that someone is in there. This is extremely dangerous. You are not aware that someone is watching you, someone is monitoring you, and he stays over there for a long period of time. This is what we call an APT. The backdoor attack is, let's say, from its name, they use a backdoor to be able to access your system. So it's a method by bypassing authentication and gaining access in your operating system and or the application. So if you have a certain authorization or a certain authentication, and for students who are a lot going deeply into cybersecurity, there is one type of attack that is the 1=1. I'm not going to go into the details about the 1=1 because this is a very famous backdoor that all hackers use. It's a situation that the state is always true. The statement is always true. They inject an attack, or they inject a query that has this malicious type that is the 1=1, the authentication. They are bypassing the authentication. They will gain access into your systems without any kind of authentication. This is what we say a backdoor. There's the buffer flow. The buffer flow, we say it's an exploit that takes advantage of the program that is waiting for a user's input. So they ask for an input, and while they are waiting for this user to enter his input, then they can, let's say, they can trigger. So this has a lot of details, not going to go into there. The second one is the man in the middle. The man in the middle is the most famous kind of cyber attack in that they were attacked in a man in the middle way. There is a man in the middle critical attack. What's that about? This attack, it is someone who is in the middle, a person. So let's say that you are a client over here and you are trying to communicate with this client. So let's say this is your PC. Okay, and you are accessing your Facebook, so you are accessing the database. You are sending a request with your username or password, and you are waiting for a response. A response is either negative or positive if your information is correct or if your credentials are wrong. The man in the middle is going to be residing over here between the client and, let's say, the database. There is over here this attacker. So this is the attacker. He is the one in the middle waiting for this request to be, let's say, to be triggered from the client all the way to the database so that he can capture the credentials that the client is trying to send. So he is waiting in the middle. How does that happen, and how do they gain, or how does he gain his location in the middle? It is based on let's say, the weakness, or one of these examples is the free Wi-Fi over here. If you are both connected to this unsecured network, then there is a high, let's say, a high chance that there is a man in the middle over there waiting for access, or waiting for a snitch to be able to capture all of the data. The cross-site scripting, it is a code injection attack that allows an attacker to execute JavaScript in another user's browser. So this is over here, the browser of the other user. There is an attacker who is trying to attack this browser. There is an attacker who is trying to let's say, gain access over the system, what does he do? He tries to inject a code. So there is over here a code, a JavaScript code that is being typed, because we know that, if you know that, JavaScript is the language that is responsible for the behavior of the website. So the website that you see in your eyes, it is composed, like pretty much in brief, it is composed of HTML, that is the language of blocks, how you build up blocks, the cascading style sheet, which is responsible of coloring and the style of the page, and then comes the GS. The GS is the JavaScript, which is responsible for the behavior of the page. And when we say behavior, which means when you press on a certain button, what happens when you press on this certain button is the behavior. So, mics, guys.
Everybody, we have to respect our belief. To respect our teacher, please.
Okay, so I'm muting everyone from my side. Okay.
Yes, it's complete.
Okay, thank you. So just pay attention there, guys. So as we were saying, the cross-site scripting is the way of injecting a JavaScript code from a client to another user's browser. So when you inject this code, which means that you have control over the behavior of his website. The denial of service, and I bet everyone have seen this on the news, this attack, which is called the DOS, the denial of service attack is the attack where the attacker attempts to shut down the service or shut down the websites. PHP as well, yes, you're correct. The denial of service is, it happened in my place before that they shut down the governmental website that was responsible to show the results of the official exams. So this was pretty funny. They shut down the entire website so that people cannot see the results. This is a denial of service. So they try to benefit from being online. The best friend of this is the DDoS. The DDoS is the distributed denial of service attack. So what are we talking about over here? If one attacker, so this is the website over here, and we have one PC, one attacker trying to access and access and access. How does the denial of service attack happen? They always refresh, access and access and access this page until it is broken. So whenever this page is overloaded and there is a traffic on it, then the service will go down. This is how they deny their. This is how they deny the service of this website. Now, the distributed denial of service is, if we are talking about this same website, we're going to have a main attacker over here that is controlling some slaves. So he is controlling some slaves. Imagine these as hundreds, so times 100, and all of them are trying to access at the same time this system or this website. So it begins with one person or a group of persons. They try to capture some of the clients, make them as their slaves. So I sent a virus to a certain computer. When it is in, then he became my slave. He is doing whatever I ask him to do. And these slaves are going to be attacking the system. This is going to be a distributed denial of service attack, because at the same time, 100 computers are accessing the same website at the same second. So this is going to be an overload on this website. It is going to be shut down, of course, or it will freeze. This is the denial of service attack. Okay, and you're gonna ask me that on Facebook, it is a worldwide service. And of course, there's hundreds that are accessing at the same time. How is it that they are not facing this thing? This is where cybersecurity plays its role, because they are going to increase the capacity or how much this system can handle of pressure. And this is over here. The high security of their systems, because they know how to be able to handle a lot of pressure. And this also brings us back to what happened before the attack that I was talking about, and Facebook and Instagram were unavailable. It was because of a rogue employee who knew how much capacity it can take. So he built up a software and injected it, and the whole thing was down. SQL injection. This is over here a very common application and a very common threat that allows, as we say, a malicious hacker to steal and alter data in a website's database. So when he injects this SQL code, he is trying to either delete some information from the database, he is trying to change, and this is what we mean by alter. Alter means change. So he is trying to change this data inside this database, or he is trying to break it down. The zero-day exploit, it's a vulnerability in a system or a device that has been disclosed but not yet patched. So there's a bit of difference over here. So I'm trying to cover as much as I can for every type of attack. The impacts of a cyber attack. What's the impact of an attack? When this cyber attack is successful, it can cause a major damage to the systems, to the organization, to their integrity, to their availability, as well, of course, to the reputation of their business and the consumer or the customer's trust. As I said at the beginning of the session, once you are victim, it only needs one time. Once you are victim of a cyber attack, you are going to lose your reputation, you are going to lose your integrity, and the customers, they will no longer trust your website, they will no longer trust your service, and they are going to say that this happened once, it can happen. Going to trust that you fixed your system and you updated your security. Some results of these attacks can be financial loss. Financial, which means they stole your money. They stole all of the money in there. The reputation damage, your reputation is zero on the market. And of course, legal consequences, you are going to deal with trials, you are going to go and put up a, let's say, trying to make this in a legal way so that they can help you, and it is going to be a long path that is endless and maybe with no result, because already your information was lost. A malicious code. The types of malicious code, so we're almost done, guys. Type of malicious code, it can be a virus. A virus, what's a virus? We always hear that I have a virus, I'm attacked by a virus, my computer has a virus. What's a virus? A virus, it is a malicious program. So it is a malicious code that is over there in your system. It is sleeping, it can be sleeping, it does nothing. Whenever it is triggered, or whenever you trigger it, because there is sometimes a folder or a .exe file, if you run it, it contains a virus. So you don't know that, but whenever you trigger it, What's going to happen is that this software is going to be executed, and then it will replicate itself. So it will do some replications over itself by modifying, as we say, other computer programs and inserting its own code. So this virus will be, this virus is going to be behaving on its own. It's going to be doing some actions on its own, and then it is going to change everything on your system without your permission, and it is going to be, let's say, the network worm. It is the standalone malware which replicates itself in order to spread to other computers. So this is over here a network worm. It is somehow similar to a virus, but this one behaves over the entire network. Whenever one device on this network was, let's say, was a victim, then all of the devices connected to this network are going to be victims as well, because this is a worm that is going to be replicating itself on other computers that are connected to the same network. The Trojan horse, and this is actually, it has a historical story, which is, I think it's back to the Roman Empire, where I don't know who were the two sides. I'm not good at history anyway, but there were some of them that there was two sides. One side was surrendering to the other. I think it was the Romans, I'm not sure. So they were surrendering to the others. What did they do? They built up a horse. Okay, this looks nothing as a horse. Maybe this is a dog, or I don't know. So consider it as a horse. They build up a horse. This is a car. It's not even a horse. Let me try this again. Okay. This is a camel now. So anyway, I was always kicked out of drawing class back at school. So the Trojan horse is a kind of attack. As I was saying, they were surrendering to the other side, and they were a certain, let's say, statue. They built up a huge horse, and then they entered this horse to the castle. Inside this horse was hundreds of soldiers that were hiding. So when they came down and opened the horse, they were, let's say, they were surprised by the amount of soldiers that are hiding in there, and then they took over the castle, and this is the story. Why do we call it a Trojan horse attack in cybersecurity? Because it is going to be a software that is, let's say, disguising itself, like putting on a mask, disguising itself. It claims to, let's say, free your computer from viruses. And I say that I'm an antivirus, I will clean your computer, I will scan it. But actually what it's going to do is it is going to introduce a virus onto your system. Whenever you install it, whenever you run it, then a virus over here is going to be executed, and you will be falling into a trap. And this is what we call the Trojan horse attack. The botnet, it is a kind that is used to perform the DDoS, the distributed denial of service. The botnet is also to steal data, to send spams, allow the attackers access to the device and to their connection. There is the keylogger as well. The keylogger, now we say that it's a type of surveillance of technology. It's used to monitor and record each keystroke typed on the keyboard. So the keylogger, it has as functionality to monitor you, and it will be recording and saving and saving. What are you pressing on the keyboard? Every click is going to be monitored. The rootkit, this one is famous. I don't know if you know about it. It is a collection of tools or a collection of programs that enable the administrator level access to computer. So whenever you have this rootkit, then you can access the device as an administrator. And accessing as an administrator, which means that you can do anything, which is, of course, extremely dangerous. Next come what we say, it's the spyware. Spyware, from its name, it's something acting as a spy. It's a software that is hidden from the user. The user cannot spot it, the user cannot see it. Why? Because it has a target in order to spy on you, to gather information about what are you surfing on the internet, what are you pressing on your keyboard, what are the cookies, what are the passwords that you are saving, and of course a lot of more sensitive data. So this is a spy that records and saves data and then sends a report back to the one who injected it. So he is going to have all of your information. The adware, and this is a lot frustrating and annoying, it is designed to always display advertisement. Whenever you close it, it comes back up. So this is a lot disturbing on your computer. It redirects you if you click on it, it takes you to a certain advertisement website that is fake and that has a goal to collect information about you. And of course, you're going to get nothing. If you are paying for something, then your money is going to be stolen. You're going to get nothing. And you are going to be fallen into, or as a victim to this adware. They will be collecting information about you in return for nothing. The ransomware, it prevents, so if this kind of attack was successful, they will prevent you from entering the system. They will not allow you to enter the system. And in order to give you back access to the system, they ask for a ransom. So I kick you out of the system. They prevent or limit users from accessing the system, either by locking them out on the screen, or they can do nothing unless a ransom is paid. So they ask for some amount of money to be able to give you back their system. And this is how they got into your system. And this indicates that you have a weakness or you have a weak point that allowed someone to gain an unauthorized access to be able to capture you as, or to make you his ransom. So this is something important to take care of. And lastly, the vulnerabilities. What's a vulnerability in cybersecurity? This term refers to a flaw in a system that can lead it to an open attack or can open the system to an attack. So the vulnerability is the weak point. If you wanna put a synonym to it, it is equal to the weak point in every system. The composition is of 3 elements: a flaw, access of an attacker, or the capability of the attacker to exploit the flaw. There's a lot of assets or how we can classify vulnerabilities. It can be over hardware, over software, over a network, a personal one, a physical site, or an organizational one, which of course brings us back to a lot of dangerous points. The causes of these vulnerabilities are on a system: missing patches, clear text credentials, and this is a lot important because in every system, if you are building up this kind of program, the credentials, the username or password, they should always be hidden. So you see, whenever you type a username, is it's a star. If you type your username, you are going to see the letters as stars, which means that they are not in clear text. Encrypting channels, if you use unencrypted channels, then you are pointing yourself out to some vulnerabilities. RF emanation as well is one of the causes. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I'm going to open for any kind of question, of course, by raising the hand, please, because you're a lot of individuals to prevent the mess. And before I start taking the questions, I'm going to say that I hope that everyone liked this session. This was a general session that we tried to cover all of the general information about what cybersecurity is and the types of attacks that we might see. Okay, I'm gonna give the permission for Ahmed Abdullahi. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Presentation is also good. My question is, we sometimes hear from the news that hackers who have been hacking such government institutions who have been hacking them for a long time, being undetected. So how can the private sector make sure they are safe?
If I heard you well, because your voice was somehow low, I think that you were asking about how they detect the presence of someone unauthorized in the system. Am I correct?
Hello, Tija.
Hello. Okay. So to answer the question of Ahmed, I think that that's what he was talking about. So this is over here based on some kind of scanning systems that are, they have the responsibility to always do a check over the system and to check every weak point if they are under any kind of vulnerability, if they are under any kind of threat.
Hello, Tija.
Okay, yes, hello.
Tija, I need to ask you one question about the lesson.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we get the slides of the lesson?
Yeah, I'm gonna communicate with the administration to see how to make that possible. No problem.
My second question is to can you able to send it at the lesson video of the lesson to illustrate more about all the books about the lessons.
Yeah, I know it's something pretty amazing to be to go into the details of these lessons. So we'll see how to make that possible. No worries. I'm gonna give to Amina. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, teacher. I want to ask you, can someone take a course about cybersecurity without any background of information technology?
Okay, so to answer the question, you can take courses about cybersecurity if you do not have background. So you will be able to build up your theoretical view, and you will be building up the artificial intelligence. So, which means that you will be increasing your theoretical skills, not your practical one. The practical one will be is going to be needing you some background, but of course, if you're gonna take it, then it will increase your theoretical knowledge. Of course, why not?
Okay, thank you so much.
Welcome. So question in the chat, and by the way, thank you guys for every nice words that you are saying. I'm reading everything, and I also want to say that I love you all and I'm proud of you. A question in the chat from Abdul Wali is the difference between computer network security and cybersecurity. They are closely related. Yes, they are closely related. You cannot say that there is a big difference between them, but they are closely related. Guys, you will have the slides on your emails, and the recording is going to be on YouTube, so it will be available for everyone. Another question in the chat is, what's the difference between the cyber and the hackers? I already answered for that, just for short notice on time.
Yes.
If you watch the recording
Yes.
back, I already answered that.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see. Okay, Abdullahi, hand is up.
Yes. Thank you for your good presentation. Really, you have covered many different topics. You have explained cyber crime, cyber security principles, confidentiality, integrity, accountability, and availability, cyber threats, source of cyber threats, and many other topics. Really, my question is that and when you have explained the types of cyber attacks, there were different areas. For example, backdoor, buffer overflows, middle attack, cross-site scripting, and also other important areas. So my question is, what is the most dangerous attacker that might have a huge impact on my computer network and programs? Thank you.
All right, thank you. And to answer somehow your question, because every kind of attack is based on a certain technique, and every kind of attack has its technique to be able to be in, let's say, triggered. There is no one kind of attack that has the most dangerous impact. They all have their impacts. They all have their let's say their disadvantages and keep their impacts on our systems. So personally, I might consider that the most dangerous one is the undetected attack, and the undetected, let's say, access. When there is an undetected access, this is extremely dangerous because you are not aware that someone is in there. Okay, question from Jonas. Go ahead, Jonas.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge, teacher. And I ask you a question. Can you give him your account, YouTube account? It's possible.
I did not hear that, Jonas. Can you repeat, please? I did not hear you well.
Thank you for sharing